Welcome, everyone, to the La Jolla Cosmetic Podcast. You may not recognize me, but I'm your hostess, Monique Ramsey, and we have a very special guest today in our studio, Alisha Merlo. She's our neighbor in Carlsbad, and she's the Executive Director of Professional Relations for Colorescience. Alisha, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much, Monique. It's a pleasure to join you.
So why we look ridiculous? Why is that? So I'm going to disrobe from my getup here, which was kind of an interesting thing. So today we're doing a sunscreen SMACKDOwn, SPF SMACKDOwn, and Alisha is, she's been in our industry for a long time, but she knows everything there is to know about Colorescience. Yeah, I'm not going to say you're like a senior editor like me. Like, we've been around a long time, but you do know a lot, and you know everybody. And it is so Colorescience is a San Diego local company right in Carlsbad, right? And so tell us about like the company and the work that you do there.
Absolutely, Monique. I like to consider us the OGs of this industry because we've got a lot of street cred and a lot of wisdom behind us. So Colorescience is a company local to San Diego, North County specifically, and our focus is on the skin health realm. And what's the best way to have healthy skin? But it's all about protecting skin health. And we are not only just here based out of Carlsbad, we're national, and we're actually a global company. So we get to protect and rejuvenate skin around the world. And we have been the leaders for several decades that we've been in business in innovating in the most important thing that you'll put on your skin is sun care.
Right. And we are calling this episode the SPF SMACKDOwn because it's UV Safety Awareness Month. And so with Alisha, we're going to smack down the excuses and dumb reasons that we either don't wear enough sunscreen or we don't wear it at all. That shouldn't be it. And busting myths around sunscreen. So today's episode has some visuals. So we encourage you, if you're going to watch this one, watch it on YouTube, and you'll see our silly get-ups too. You can go back and start again and see what ridiculous things we were wearing. And then there's a link in the show notes to jump over to YouTube if right now you're on Spotify or you're on Apple. So before we get into it, it might seem sort of silly to ask, but why is sunscreen so important? And what happens if you don't protect your skin from UV light?
That's a great question because some people don't really understand the actual importance of this at the level that they should. And I really look at it, there's three things that we should really focus on why we want to protect our skin health. So let's just talk about health in general. One of the things that is a major contributor to skin damage is the sun, right? The environment, right? We're getting all of these rays from the sun, from the UVA rays, the UVB rays, and the full spectrum. And what does that do to our skin? Over time, with prolonged use, it actually exposes us to increased risk of skin cancer. And skin cancer is, unfortunately, the most predominant form of cancer that's diagnosed every year, more than all the other cancers combined. And actually, 1 in 5 Americans will be diagnosed with some form of skin cancer by the age of 70. So if we know that's a risk factor that's pretty high, we'd want to protect ourselves any way we can, right? With all the tools and resources we have. So that's number one for sure, is we don't want skin cancer.
Right.
Number two, which I think falls in line with what you bring to the table for all of your listeners and all the wonderful people who have the opportunity to come and seek care with you, is aging. 90%. This is 90%, right? Like almost all of the aging that we see is due to the exposure to the sun.
Wow.
So if we want to protect ourselves in that way from aging and slow it down, we would really need to be able to explore all the ways that we can do to mitigate the aging.
Right. And sometimes I tend to be one of those people who loves the beach, loves to be in the sun, and it's like, okay, you can love it, but you have to love it in a smart way. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to be smart about it, because we live in a beautiful place and everybody should be outside and enjoying, all that San Diego has to offer. But certainly, coming into, the anti-aging, great reasons. But then of course that 1 in that 20%, skin cancer, that's a very high number. So I want to show you guys a crazy photo that my producer Eva sent me to illustrate what happens when you don't wear sunscreen. And this is showing a 92-year-old female who used UV protective moisturizers on her face, but not on her neck, for 40 plus years. And the fact that she's 92 and look at her face, she looks actually really good. That skin quality is not half bad for 92, but look at her neck and look at the striking difference. It says in solar damage between her neck and her cheeks. So if that doesn't tell the story.
I think that is such an important visual that you brought up, and I'm so glad you did, because when we're talking about, and we'll get into products and application, I like to say when you're applying your products, your face goes from cleavage to crown. Like really, when you're looking at protecting yourself, you want to make sure that you get good coverage. And this picture is such a good case for that, as well as the benefits of daily protection.
Okay, so after today's conversation, after you listen to this whole episode, we hope nobody's going to have any excuses left for not applying sunscreen. So let's get into it. The first dumb reason that we don't use enough sunscreen is that maybe we're trying to save money. And so if it's too expensive, is that a good excuse or not? If you get the sunscreen from CVS or Target, even the good stuff is kind of pricey. And so some people maybe want to use it sparingly and just to sort of save money, figuring, okay, it can be a little bit thinner or whatever. So smack it down for me, Alisha. Why is this a dumb reason?
I'm going to blow your audience's mind right now because I don't think many people are aware. Sunscreen is an over-the-counter drug. So just like Advil and Tylenol, we'll use that comparison. It's managed and regulated as an over-the-counter drug. So the FDA has some say in what comes to market and who can say and claim that they provide SPF protection, UVA, UVB, or broad spectrum. So let's say you are in pain or you have a headache and you grab for that Advil and it says take 2 and you take 1. What are your expectations? Are you going to really get the relief that you need? Same thing with your sun protection. You should be using the appropriate amount as recommended by your skin professional or that you're going to learn from us today to be able to get the complete effect. And let's just say you're worried about spending money. Think about the money that you'd be spending if you have accelerated aging due to photo damage or, God forbid, skin cancer. Mm-hmm. So you're actually have an investment up front in getting the products that are going to give you the best protection. And like any other medication, you want to use it as directed so that you can get the optimal results.
Okay. Now, here's my big excuse. So if I already put my makeup on and I don't want to wreck it, and they're saying reapply every 45 minutes. Well, I'm not going to reapply it on my face. So I'm like hoping that SPF that might be in my makeup will do it for me because I don't want to put more sunscreen on top and ruin everything. So what can I do about this, or people in the audience who have the same thought process as I do?
This is where Colorescience really was born a few decades ago in innovating in a space where there was an unmet need. We know that sun protection, the number doesn't mean you have higher protection or longer protection, that SPF number. That number just reflects the actual protection or amount of energy that you're diffusing, and it fades over time. And so what you want to do is reapply. And we look at it as a layered protection approach. So you're going to put your first layer, which should be a designated sunscreen. And we'll talk about how you can actually find sunscreens that are cosmetically elegant. You don't have to use the ones in your moisturizers. We actually look at having something dedicated and fully committed to protecting your skin, not just a little dash of, ingredients to protect it. But then if you are of the kind of person that doesn't want to apply that liquid all over again, we innovated about 20 years ago and created actually a powder form. And I brought this here because this is what we're famous for. And this is the one that you just mentioned for us as award winning. Mm-hmm. But now I call this no excuses. So you can actually just use this as a brush. I'm hoping you can see the poof, see that mineral coming out, and just right on top of your makeup, and it's not going to disrupt it. And there
Right.
is a specific amount, 2 passes around the face, and you're going to get the protection, the reapplication, and you can actually go about your day looking undisrupted, but being fully protected.
And you know what else is interesting that somebody brought up to me recently? Janelle, who works in our office, she was saying it's great for little kids and it's great for like on top of your head. Like if you're balding or your hair's thinning, men and women out there have thinning hair over time. So do you find that it's a good place for application as well?
Yes, the powder is ideal for those places because a lotion can disrupt your hair or feel greasy. The same with a spray. A powder actually can go on, and there's a variety of shades that you can select that can actually protect your scalp. And you would just dust it on your part line, right? Just like you normally would, especially our fair-haired friends like yourself or those who might be, kind of not having the same volume of hair that they normally have had. And then children, it makes it so easy. Kids run away screaming when you pull out the bottle of sunscreen or the spray. So this makes it fun. And I once had a doctor I worked with saying that she would tell parents, tell your children this is their superpower dust and they have to replenish their superpowers every 2 hours. And I thought that was
Oh,
brilliant because then the
I
kids
love
were
that.
like, oh my goodness. And sunscreen is safe to use on children 6 months and older. So my grandkids, I have 2 of them, have been having their own brush and know how to apply it since they were little.
Wow. That's great. I love that, making it fun for kids and it's not like a chore and everybody, I want superpowers. I'll take it. And then, so that's the total protection. That's what it's called, right? And
Yeah, so total protection, brush on shield. The whole family or collection we call total protection.
okay. And it has different finishes and tone adapting, or, you can kind of get close to the skin tone that you are, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then, another excuse that I hear is that people go, oh, well, I'm really concerned about ingredients because I have sensitive skin. Or if I'm lathering it all over my body, that's a lot of chemicals. And is that toxic? So why are minerals the most important ingredients? And like, how can we smack down that excuse?
So there are 2 groups of sun protection filters. So you have the all physical, all mineral. That is zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. Okay, that's the ones we're talking about. Everything else that you might see on the back of that bottle in the drug facts box on the packaging is going to be a chemical filter. They both protect your skin. So I'm not going to bash people. But with minerals, what is nice is the FDA recognizes the safety of it and has given zinc oxide and titanium dioxide the only GRASE rating, which means it's generally recognized as safe and effective. So if you have something that is going to provide that kind of level of safety, and we know it's natural, right? It comes from the earth. These are minerals, right? They start off in rocks in the earth. Then why wouldn't we want to use something like that? So the FDA agrees that it is the only sunscreen filters that are recognized as safe and effective, even though the other ones still can be used. They're still approved. I'm not going to say they're not. And it's better to wear something versus nothing. But minerals work well. The other belief is that there's this school of thought that has come about over the last few years is that chemical filters have been damaging the coral reefs. So there are about 7 places in the world that have banned select chemical filters. And that is because they are areas that we go for destination locations that have reefs like Hawaii and Palau and the Keys, some parts of Mexico. So they are concerned and they're still looking into it and doing more research. So it's safe for your skin. It's safe for the environment. So really these are very compelling reasons. The issue that people have had in the past with minerals is that you can see it, right? They're thinking of the lifeguard with the white nose, right? So it's not been cosmetically appealing. And if no matter how good something is, if you don't want to put it on, then it's not doing you any good. So I think that we have advanced so far in mineral protection to make it wearable, right? That people want to wear it. And that helps them to be able to put that on every day as a mineral.
And something I remember learning about the Colorescience powder is that it's all mineral, right? And it doesn't ever degrade or expire, or if you leave it in your hot car, it's not going to, boil and be less effective. Is that right?
So the powders are great for that reason. So we look at expiration dates are important, and I could do a whole other podcast on like how that's evaluated, because when a product is newly evaluated, there is a expiration date because you have to do long-term stability testing. But once that expiration date is actually gone past, you can remove it. But the general guideline is you should actually replace it 2 years after you've opened it. And my take on that is, well, if you're not using it, you're going to still have some left after 2 years. So you're not using it up if you haven't used it for 2 years, but it will be photo stable as far as the heat in your car. But sticks and lotions can be heated up, right? Because they're a different type of format. But the powder, a lot of people love that. They'll keep it in their golf bag or their beach bag, and in the area of keeping one of these brushes in the cars at all time. And you won't run into what your concerns are that you mentioned, Monique.
Yeah, exactly. So the minerals, again, I want to make sure everybody knows. So the minerals to look for, you said the zinc oxide,
titanium dioxide. Yes.
Okay. And then I have here in my show notes about iron oxide. So
yes.
What are those?
So let's talk about those. Those are another form of minerals. They are not providing SPF protection. Let's just say that. So that's going to be your zinc oxide and your titanium dioxide together give you broad spectrum protection against UVA rays and UVB rays. But then further along the line in the light spectrum is what we call high energy visible light. A lot of people have been talking about, I don't know if you've had this in any of your communication, you're so good about educating people who follow you on blue light. And that's been a hot topic, especially since we've, been so much in front of screens, right? So blue light is emitted from our devices because it's visible light, from our lights above our head, and also we get it from the sun. Well, what protect us effectively from blue light is zinc can help a little bit of the range of the blue light, but iron oxides, which are basically natural compounds that only come in 3 colors, red, yellow, and black, but they actually effectively cover the full range or full bandwidth of the HEV blue light protection. So it's therapeutic, right? It protects you against and shields you against this, but it also is how you can make different shades and the color varieties. And that's how we use it. We call it pigments with purpose.
Oh, okay. So if the pigment is sort of a tan color, let's say, it's because it has that iron oxide in it?
Yeah, it could be tan, it could be bronze, it could be a color balm that looks like a different golden shade or a berry shade, but we will use iron oxides, not dyes or colorants. And so yes, you get the protection, but you also get the fun ability to have it either match or enhance your skin tone.
Now, are there drugstore brands that also meet sort of the qualifications of what people should look like? That meet the qualifications of what people should look for?
I think when you're looking into a drugstore brand, there are going to be a few that people will say that they use. So always look at the drug facts box, right? So you'll know if it's mineral or chemical or hybrid. Sometimes they'll put some zinc in there and some of those other long name chemicals in there. But if you're looking for all mineral brands, what we see in the kind of grab and go drugstore, Blue Lizard has been one that people have really enjoyed and loved. La Roche-Posay from L'Oreal is something that we hear also people will use. Again, look and see what the ingredients are. And even CeraVe has brought out some all minerals. We've only all used all minerals. And it's so funny because over the last few years, you've probably seen this because you are so on top of this. More companies, even if they had only chemicals, have moved to saying, oh, we see there's a demand. People, we want minerals. The Google search trends are really high for people seeking mineral sunscreen. So there is that consumer demand where people are more aware and that's what they're seeking. So that's why there's more availability.
Well, I think, like personally, and because I'm just such a San Diego crazy, the native, 2 generations of San Diegans, and now my kids, that makes 3. So when I see a San Diego company, I just love to support San Diego companies. And so like if it's like, well, between, company A and Colorescience or Elastin or some of the local companies, it's like, okay, let's support them because it's great products and you're supporting somebody local. So that's my smackdown for
You
people
have
who
local
want
pride. I love it. And we appreciate that. And I would love to add to, we appreciate our partners here local in the community that help us amplify the message about protecting skin health. I mean, you are so fantastic, you and your team, about making sure people are educated and informed. And in the research, I don't know if you've seen this. This has been in, New Beauty magazine and the American Society of Dermatologic Surgery, and even in our own surveys. The top two things people are looking for before purchasing a product are going to be safety and efficacy. Does it work, right? And professional recommendation coming from your team, for example. They're going to listen to you. They're seeking you out. And so it means so much to us, Monique, that you consider us not just, a brand that you love locally, but also that you trust us because of those other things.
Right. And I think, we are really good about vetting the products that we have. And we had some sunscreen, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago that we carried, and it was a spray on mineral. It was awful. We got burned. I mean, we all were so excited. We take it to the beach. We're all trying different varieties of the ones that they gave us to, we're like, oh, great. We're going to put our logo on it. It's great. Burned. And it didn't smooth on nicely. Nothing, it was just like, okay, forget it. We're sticking with the tried and true. So we do try all the things that we bring in and make sure that we're not going to be selling something, because there is some investment involved. And like you said, that's a worthwhile investment to have, especially if you're, having other procedures. Like, let's not make the aging process speed up when we're trying to slow it down with Botox and other things.
Well, it's kind of like, would you go to the dentist, and not brush your teeth the rest of the year, right? They're going to come to you for rejuvenation, helping them achieve their skin dreams. And then they go out and they don't protect that investment. So I think that's such a responsibility.
Yeah. And we talked about it last night at my book club. We were talking about, Botox, and I said, I'm like, I'm addicted. Okay. And whoops, sorry. And they're like, yeah, but you have to keep it up. And I'm like, yeah, you do. Just like working out and just like going to the dentist and just like coloring your hair, if that's what you do, yeah, you do have to keep it up. But if it works, and same with the sunscreen. And then one more thing I was thinking when you were talking about the reef safe. So I remember hearing about that when I was in Hawaii when my kids were little. So this is a long time ago. And I had never heard about that. And they educated me about it. And it was like, oh, but then you're thinking, okay, not only do I not want to hurt the fish and kill the reefs, but like if it's going to kill the reefs, what's it doing to me or my kids? That's kind of scary. You have to kind of wonder, why is that?
Yeah. And I'm always like careful on how I respond to this because, again, we don't want people not to use sunscreen. Right. And a lot of dermatologists will say the best sunscreen is the one you will wear every day. But what we do to make that decision very easy and the recommendations easy for you is just create products that are wearable, that are beautiful, but that come in every form and fashion of skin tone and format. And that's where you can feel comfortable. So you don't have to make that choice between, am I going to look like the lifeguard or am I going to look good? And, I might, not be doing the best thing for the environment. So right. I think it's responsible for us to be able to have those considerations. But when you have choices and the choices can be made easy for you and you have experts like yourselves that have already vetted it, as you've said, I think that creates for a really kind of easy transition in what you're going to go for that you're going to put on yourself and your family.
Okay. One more thing about back to the hair and the thinning hair. And so powder's one thing, but what about like hats? Can you talk to us a little bit about,
oh yeah,
I had my funny hat on when I got here.
I love that hat.
I do too. And I just got it recently, so I'm glad you do. Didn't look great with the headphones, but it's okay. But like I have a hat, a navy hat that's about the same size and shape that I got years ago from Coolie Bar. And it's like an SPF, but it's a beautiful hat. And people go, oh, that hat looks so great. I'm like, and it's protecting my face and my neck.
Yes.
And so tell us about hats.
Yes. So I love the hat conversation because most of us wear this kind of hat at the beach, right? We're going to wear the baseball cap because it's easy. It's cute. Everybody loves a trucker hat. But when you put it on, what's really only being shielded is like from your eyes and above. the sun is coming at you from the sides, right? From the back down here to, you know, the front angle of your neck. So from a protection perspective, you're absolutely right. That wider brim, those nice coolie bar ones. I brought another one of my favorite ones. So you see this a lot
did?
on the beach with us. Yeah. You see
Oh,
this
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
hat. Yeah.
What kind of
So it's like a
lifeguard
straw hat. Right. So this one's fun because it's got a little print underneath it, but look at
Cute.
that brim. You're looking at a good 6 inches of coverage. So when I put that on, you were absolutely right. I'm covered extended amount. Doesn't forego my sunscreen. And then you have the UPF material, the textiles that have been formulated that could be in your hat or it could be in your swimsuit that's going to protect you from the rays. So the technology has advanced so much in textiles, right? For fabrics and materials that can complement what we're putting directly on our skin to protect our bodies.
Yeah. And it's, I think having that hat, and I remember a long time ago, they used me as a demo patient to get the CO2, or it was the CO2 laser, but it was the Fraxel, right? So, and I was about to go to Hawaii, and I'm like, you know, should I be doing this? And the lady, we had a visiting student with us. And so they had been teaching her, and she's like, oh yeah, it'll be fine. I go, are you sure? Because she's like, well, wear a hat and wear your sunscreen. Well, I did wear my hat and I did wear my sunscreen, but in the water, you get all that reflection. So you have a hat, you can think, okay, I'm being protected from the top, but you're also getting, if you're on the water a lot, that reflection up into your face. And so anyway,
that's where the reapplication is key.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So in your water and when you're on the snow and your elevation and the snow, even the sun can reflect off the sand. So that's where you can be diligent, making sure you're putting the right amount on. They say a shot glass for your total body and 3 fingers lengths of sunscreen for your face and neck are appropriate amount for your first application. And then you look at, is it water resistant? I love that you brought up the water. Sunscreens actually have to be approved by an FDA standardized test to be water and sweat resistant, either 40 minutes or 80 minutes. So if you love going in the water, make sure you're wearing a water resistant. There's no such thing as waterproof, water resistant protection product. And then we just said earlier, reapply every 2 hours is the recommendation from the Skin Cancer Foundation and our FDA. However, if you are swimming, or if you are sweating, like you're hiking and you just got to sweat and you're vigorously exercising outside, reapply when you dry off sooner than every 2 hours, because that way you'll have that added protection. So those are kind of some unknown tips, I think, that will help people when they're enjoying the beautiful outdoors and our wonderful oceans, whether it's here in San Diego, now that things are finally warming up, or in something like someplace like Hawaii.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So our last and maybe dumbest reason that we're going to smack down is I just want to have a tan. I like myself when I look tan. So what is, you know, we're kids of the 80s. We, you know, I never did, but some people went to tanning beds. We used baby oil. What was that stuff? The sun spray you'd put in your hair to get the highlights.
I know exactly. It was like hydrogen peroxide.
Yeah, and like
sun in.
Yeah,
I think it's called sun in.
Like there was all those things. It was like you were saying, yes, I need more sun. I want to be on the foil thing with the reflection, or on a foil. There was people who had like foil blankets so they'd have more reflection. It was all about more. So now we're saying, okay, we don't want to get a great tan. So what do you remember any dumb things you did?
Oh, I did all those things. I grew up on the Jersey Shore. So I grew up on the East Coast, and we only had so many months of sunshine, right? So as soon as it hit 65 degrees, we were in shorts and laying out. The sun sins of my youth. And so I would lay out with baby oil, tinfoil on my double album cover, the oven timer on every 30 minutes so it would turn over. And then as I got older and tanning beds came out, I was in the tanning beds. And I think those are some things that people still, especially young people, because when we're young, we don't think ahead, we're not forward thinking, but your skin never forgets. And I think that's important. So if you have done things in the past, the most important thing you can do is get skin checks. right? Annually. You should be doing that as a young adult and into your adulthood. So it's like going to the dentist, right? Twice a year to make sure there's nothing that is coming back to haunt you if you have the sun sins of your life like I have. And then if you want the tan, you can use products that offer that or deliver that payoff. Like we have a product that has a bronze where you can look like you're sun-kissed, but you're not sun-kissed. What I would share with your audience, and I hope you're okay if I can be extremely transparent about my own experience as you asked. I just shared how bad I was. I didn't start taking care of my skin and really being adamant about protective until I turned 30. I didn't know. That's when I got into this business. So 24 years ago. So I was 30. You do the math. 24 years ago. I'm in my 5th decade. And I get my annual skin checks and I protect myself and do all the things we're sharing with you now. And so unfortunately, I just have been diagnosed with skin cancer. I have basal cell cancer. It's called basal cell carcinoma. It is one of the most common forms of skin cancer, the most common out of the 3 ones we know about, including melanoma. It's not a melanoma, thank goodness. It was detected early and it can be surgically removed. So I share that not to scare people, but to know that it's so important, even if you've made mistakes in the past with your sun exposure, that you should be getting checked regularly. And it's never too late to change and have healthy habits to protect your skin.
Well, gosh, I didn't realize, but I love the way you phrased that, you know, there's a memory, that sun damage, just because it's been 40 years since you laid out it with the baby oil, doesn't mean that your skin has forgotten the damage. And I've never looked at it that way, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it is. It's just like aging, right? The skin cells have, DNA. They have memories in there to reproduce. And what the sun does over prolonged exposure is just kind of damages that DNA. So it takes sometimes decades to come up. What we do see, which is a little bit more concerning, and I'm sure you've seen this, but the AAD has done some researches with the younger generations. And AAD stands for American Academy of Dermatology. So they are kind of a governing authority over a lot of these things, especially skin cancer. That's their wheelhouse, what they look at to protect. Young people, Gen Z, want to be tan, like you talked about, right? But they actually do not believe, and they still think like you did, that it's healthy and it's a base tan. Mm-hmm. And they don't realize that 71% of them don't realize that if you have one serious sunburn, you've just opened the door to skin cancer late in life. So I think the younger generation, which I think you have a great audience of young people who are more informed and more aware. So we're doing you guys a service to say, youth is on your side right now. So take advantage of it and treasure it and protect it the way that you can with all these resources that we're talking about today.
Yeah. And so what are sort of the risks associated with a sunburn?
Well, so a sunburn is, by the time your skin is burnt, right, the damage is done because within those exposures and those rays, right, so the DNA of your skin cells are damaged. You have the initial, right, the red, the heat, then the skin peels off. And, some people have very bad blistering sunburns, right? So those are the ones that are associated with later melanoma in life. And they have even said, that you can have, one serious sunburn and increase your risk for melanoma. I can tell you, I've had many sunburns in my life. And also it's important to know that no matter what your skin tone is, you can look at me. I'm a little bit more melanin rich than you are, Monique, right? And then it goes down to the spectrum of very melanin rich skin tones. Everybody is at risk. Because you have natural melanin and kind of people think that's a natural SPF, it'll protect you, but very minimally. And so even those with deeper, darker skin tones are at risk for skin cancer and melanoma and can still be sunburned. It might not manifest in the way you might see somebody like myself or Monique, but you're still damaging the skin at the cellular level that can change and become a skin cancer later.
And of course, the premature aging that you talked about. I mean, whatever's going to make you do it, whatever the reason, whether you're just trying to protect that investment of, all the the time and money you spend on looking great and looking younger than you might feel or than your age. But yeah, that's now. So was your skin cancer found during the check that you had?
Yes. Yes.
So,
and I will tell you,
you saw, like, was it in a place where you would have been able to see it yourself?
I would have been able to see it. It's on my upper chest. I have not had the surgery yet. This is okay. I know that this might timestamp this for you, but I'm a week out from having that diagnosis. And so I will be having the surgery, which is just an excision. So going for my skin check, I have a lot of kind of spots. Again, my skin is old. And so I keep an eye on certain things, but this one was on my chest and it didn't appear as a dark spot. It actually appeared as kind of a shiny pink spot, like a little raised bump. But the dermatologist's office, they're trained to see these things. So they were able, it was so tiny and they did a little numbing, took a little sample of that. It was painless, you guys. It did not hurt, and then just sent it off to the lab. So it was a very easy process to go through. I know it sounds scary when we hear the big C word, but one of the great things about going to see your dermatologist and skin cancer is the only cancer that is visible. You can see it. And so that's why it's so important. So yes, so it was just something I had not noticed, but now I kind of have an idea of what to look for when I'm checking myself, not just the dark spots, which I've been pretty good about, but looking at something that might be a little off that, doesn't seem normal. And it was tiny. It was like, smaller than a pencil eraser. It was super small.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, that's good to know. And it's funny because we're so lucky in our country to have really great healthcare, and especially in San Diego, there's so many wonderful healthcare providers and groups. But I can tell you, Alisha, the last time I had a skincare check, I haven't had one and none of my doctors have ever brought it up. And I didn't even think about it till you said it today. So that's a great thing that all of us should go out. There was like a good, PR push for everybody to get their mammograms, and they did a lot of education on that over the last 30 years. But really going in for the dermatology, a skin cancer check, I think is a really important thing. So I'm going to do that now that you've motivated me. Yeah, no, nobody's even brought it up. I didn't even think about it. I think.
Yeah. And you don't, even starting at a young age, right? When you're 18, right? Or, depending on, we live by the beautiful beach. So if you have a lifestyle that puts you outside more, there's no harm. You get your teeth clean, once, maybe twice a year, hopefully, right? Same thing along those same lines, your mammogram. It's just part of your regular health and wellness. And can I give a plug to an organization that does a great job to research this too? So the Skin Cancer Foundation is the global authority on all things skin cancer, and they have incredible resources. And I would encourage those who want to learn more to go to skincancer.org. Plain as day, best URL you could ever get. And you can find out more information. They are a company that is an organization, nonprofit, that is dedicated to helping share what I'm sharing with you and work with doctors from all around the world and experts to make sure that everyone's equipped and empowered to protect their skin, from products that you put on your skin to clothing, to window tinting in your car. I mean, they have so many resources that you can learn from.
And then before we wrap up, I want to recap both what to look for in the sun protection and how to do it right. So we'll start to what to look for. Remind us what things you want us to look for when we're purchasing our skincare.
Okay, so for our sunscreen, always look on the back of the outer packaging, right? The box it comes in, and look at the drug facts on the back. And it will tell you what the active ingredients are. The mineral sunscreens will say zinc oxide, titanium dioxide, or both. Okay, so that's important, right? Look at that, make sure that that's actually a sunscreen. That drug facts box will be there. We talked about the importance and difference of minerals. So that's number one. Number two, make sure it says broad spectrum. So broad spectrum means that you're going to get UVA and UVB protection. Okay. Your SPF, as recommended by the Skin Cancer Foundation, the FDA, ideally a 30 or higher. We typically only make 50 because we want to provide as much protection as we can. When you see products that have like SPF 100, and I laugh with that because you flip it over, it's got to have like 6 chemicals to try to even achieve that. So if you're looking for something that's in the mineral base, 30 or higher is great. The iron oxides are fantastic. The water and sweat resistance, right? To make sure that you have your products that if you're going to be in the water or exercising or sweating, that you'll have some protection, but you'll always reapply that as well. And then there's another rating that's interesting that people are just starting to pay attention to, and it's called the PA rating. Have you heard of this yet?
No.
So the PA rating actually is this rating scale that came out from our friends in Japan. And Asia has a lot of innovations in sun care. They are like really sun savvy over there. But this is a measurement of UVA protection. And it's a scale that goes from 1 plus, PA plus, to PA quad plus with 4 pluses. And that goes from some UVA protection all the way to the best. So when you look on the label of your bottle, it can say, if it says PA plus 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 or PA quad plus with 4 pluses, that's going to be meaning that it's tested actually for really good UVA protection.
And will you remind us, because I don't know if I even remember, the difference between UVA and UVB?
Yes. So along the solar spectrum, there are different wavelengths. And so we're looking at what is exposing or hitting our skin. UVB is the rays that have the highest amount of energy, but the least amount of penetration into the skin. This is what's responsible for our sunburns. A lot of people remember UVB, the burning rays, right? So that's what SPF protects you from. UVA goes a little bit deeper into the skin. People will refer to them as the aging rays, right? So those are the rays that come right after on the spectrum to UVB. So when you get broad spectrum, you're getting coverage from both the A and the B. And that, again, is an FDA requirement on your product to prove that before you can put it on the box.
Okay. And then remind us how to do it right. Applying, do you do it ahead of time?
Can I show you? Can I show you?
Let's do it.
Okay. So I love show and tell. Okay. So you do want to apply your products before you go out. The first layer of protection, right? Then you'll reapply when you're out and about. But that first layer of protection, what we found is people, if you tell somebody, put an ounce on your face or 3 grams on your face, people are like, what is that? So our friends in dermatology have really found a great way to look at measuring what we would call for your face and neck 3 fingers. So I'm going to take, this is our brand new product. This is called No Show. This is actually an invisible all mineral sun protection. And I'm using this one because you'll be able to see it on my fingers, but I'm going to put it on my fingers and then I'm going to hold it up. 3 fingers. There you go. That's enough for my face and neck. And then what I would do is I would just distribute it. I would pat it all over and then rub it in because it's white when it goes on. But when you put it on your skin, it actually just disappears. Yeah, so you don't look like the lifeguard. Yeah. And this actually works on all skin tones. This just launched this year so that now anybody, whether you're fair like you've got beautiful fair skin or really melanin-rich skin, can wear all mineral sunscreen without having to worry about that white cast that people don't like. But
I'm
3
blow
fingers.
Your mind because I'm going to show you I do get actually kind of tan, but I do keep my face out of it. But I just got back from some vacation and I did get a little sun. But every day I was wearing my SPF. But yeah, I brown up pretty nicely. But it's now I want to how do I keep that without more sun? I'll just use the spray tan or something, the bottle version.
Yeah. And what I like about putting it on your arms, if you think about look at me, I'm wearing a sleeveless. It's summer, everybody's out in sleeveless, but you're driving in your car. My sun is coming through this side. So, and this arm is exposed. So putting sunscreen on your arms or your exposed area other than your face is kind of another little life hack that you can help because I don't know if you do a lot of hand treatments here. Do people come in and ask for hand rejuvenation? It seems to be popular.
We do some, with Radiesse or with BBL of the hands. Yeah.
So protecting that investment, if you've invested in those treatments, or protecting and preventing, right, by using your sunscreens on your arms and hands is another. And the powders are good for your hands too. If you don't want to, use a lotion, you can put your powder on your hand too.
And do you recommend that they put, like, if I would be going out to the sun, am I going to put on my sunscreen at home or like when I get to the beach so I can maximize how long I've got for that to use for the 2 hours before I reapply?
Well, whether you're using mineral or non-mineral chemical filters, you want to put it on before you're outside that first layer of protection. Minerals tend to have a very fast mechanism of action because they work by more reflection. There's a little bit of absorption, but more reflection, right? It kind of creates a reflective to push the rays back out. Chemical filters actually work by absorbing the rays, so they have to go into the skin. So oftentimes you'll hear the recommendation, 20 minutes before you go outside. I think before you go outside, you should put it on, but for our mineral protection, it's not a requirement that you have to wait for it to start working, but for the chemical filters, that is the recommendation.
Got it. Okay. So when we're going to put it on, using the right amount with the 3 fingers, reapplying every 2 hours, especially if you're in the water. What else can we do to kind of be doing it right?
So we want to make sure we can supplement our products, our sunscreen products we put on our face and our body with the hats we talked about, the right hats. There are so many cute versions of hats now. If you're worried about fashion, I can tell you can go on Amazon or go into a local store or a surf shop. Even Target, I think, has, kind of UPF hats and clothing, right, to protect yourselves. And now the clothing is cute. I mean, this is a bathing suit. Like it looks like, a Little Mermaid, but it really is something that can be fashionable. Yeah. To protect yourselves. I think that's important. And then the hours to kind of seek shade and not be in direct sun, if you can avoid them, are typically between 10 and 2. And everybody's like, well, I want to spend the whole day at the beach. Well, bring a pop-up, right? You can create your own shade if you can't seek it, right? So that you can come out of the sun.
Yeah, that's a really good point. All right. Well, Alisha, this was so much fun. And, before I head to Cabo later this summer, I'm going to have to come get stocked up with all my sun protection from Colorescience. And you guys, I'm very naive to this because I know about all of the face things, but do you also have any body products?
Yeah, we do. We have a body shield, which is an all mineral SPF 50, and it's got the PA Tri Plus that you've got on there too for the protection and water resistant as well. So you can put this on your body. But I'll be honest with you, it has a different feel because it's more like a body lotion. It's not like a sticky body sunscreen. Sometimes those over the counter ones are. We formulated it to be elegant. But let's just say I want, to have that little golden bronze look. I'll use sometimes a face shield. There's no reason why I couldn't put a bronze face shield on my body to look sun-kissed without having a sun, or make it not look like, I look like the blinding white person on the beach. So that's what's so fun now. And our vice president of research and development says you can wardrobe your protection with all these different options that we have available for you. But yes, face and body, all of these products can be used on, but we did create, to answer your question, a specific body.
Wonderful. That's so great. And I love the powder thing. I'm all about it and having it with me in the purse, in the car. And it's funny because and we'll find it for the show notes, but I remember seeing this picture and it was of a truck driver. And when you were talking about your arm that's on the window side, and there was a truck driver who never used any sun protection. You can Google like truck driver aging skin or something. And literally the half of his face that was by the window was just kind of like that image we saw earlier of the lady with her neck. And, it was like all aged, sun damaged, very, very wrinkled, lots of spots. And the other half of his face was looking pretty good. And it's crazy that, it's not just when you're at the beach, or it's not just when you're on a hike. It's all the time because you're going to get that sun. And so protection is crazy, crazy important.
And even in the cloudy days too. You can still get sun through the clouds. So that's another thing that you want to protect. And I just want to go back to what you said about that woman with the neck. I mean, she was 92 years old. So she had a lot of life behind her. And if you're 92 and you wanted your face to look and your body to look as good as what her face did, I mean, what did she do? That whole study was she took care of her skin and applied it. And just like you take care of your teeth, you brush your teeth every day before you leave the house. Get in the same habit. Put on your sunscreen before you leave the house and reapply when you need to.
Yeah, I think it's got to be, and it really needs to, it's got to be like a habitual thing, but also for our kids needs to be one of those things. We just do it. You just do it. We're not going to complain about it. We're not going to have a tantrum about it. We just do it. And my kids, because I just set that expectation, it was like, nope, this is what we do. Oh, okay. And they'd want to run, but they knew it was like, we're not doing anything unless mom finishes this task of putting it all over us. And, and I think for the kids that, have the hats and they have the little rash guards that have the sun protection, I think all of that's really important too. So, remembering our little people all at the same time. So thanks, Alisha. It was so much fun to see you. And thanks for sharing, the kind of bad news you got. But it's something we all have to know. It's a reality. It's not like something that happens to someone else. It can happen to people and, treating, preventing, doing the checks. That's really brave of you and transparent, obviously, but very brave of you to share with us. And I thank you for that. That was really nice.
Monique, thank you for having me. Thank you for starting this conversation for your audience. Thank you for providing just expert advice so that they can come to you and get the recommendations they need to protect their skin and also to rejuvenate their skin and then to protect what they've done with you as far as an investment. Right. I think you have been La Jolla Cosmetic Surgery has been a leader in our community for a long time, and you continue to lead, you continue to innovate, and it does mean on behalf of our entire local company for you, local global company, we thank you and love coming alongside you and your team, making a difference.
Well, I appreciate you being here. That's really special. And especially to have somebody who this is what you do and what you know, and we're not guessing at what's the right thing. You're telling us exactly and the studies behind it. And we're going to have everything in the show notes we talked about today, all the links, so you can go check out some of the studies or learn about some of the terminology we use today and the products. So thanks again for joining us. And please, if you have any questions, let us know. You can go to glamfam.com or ljcsc.com and ask away on our social media or on our website. Just fill out a contact form and we'll get right back to you. So thanks again.
Take a screenshot of this podcast episode with your phone and show it at your consultation or appointment, or mention the promo code PODCAST to receive $25 off any service or product of $50 or more at La Jolla Cosmetic. La Jolla Cosmetic is located just off the I-5 San Diego Freeway in the Zymed building on the Scripps Memorial Hospital campus. To learn more, go to ljcsc.com or follow the team on Instagram at ljcsc. The La Jolla Cosmetic Podcast is a production of The Axis, TheAxis.io.